Jeff finally hit the big red button, and if you're 3500 SR exactly or less, hero pools are no more for you. That being said, let's go through our final meta video, telling you exactly what's good and bad in a world without any sort of bans. Keep in mind that there have been tons of buffs, nerfs, changes, and even a new hero since hero pools have been introduced to the game. So let's break it all down for you right here in our last episode of this series. If you want to improve at Overwatch or just love Overwatch content, definitely go check out GameLeap.com. We post tons of videos on the GameLeap.com website, so go check it out. Anyways, enough talking about all that. Let's just jump right into it, shall we? Now, before we jump into the winners and losers, you might have a few questions about how the system works. Now, if the game is an average of 3,500 or less, there is no hero pools or no hero bans. And for everyone above that, it's going to be based on Overwatch League data who gets banned, not ranked data. So you're going to be more in line with what the pros are playing. And if you watch Overwatch League, you can learn from what they play. And you can find what compositions are good and bad every given week. Now, if you're something like 3450 and you get put in a 3,500 plus game, you will still have hero pool. So if you're anywhere near 3,500, you probably should know exactly what is in the pool, even if it doesn't normally affect you. Now, the last important thing about this list, keep in mind that because this is more relevant towards the lower ranks, some things are going to be slightly skewed as far as rankings concerned. Characters that only get the max value at a very high level, something like Widow and Diva, will get a slight knock on this list as compared to normal. Anyways, enough preamble, let's jump into the tanking category, and as such, there's going to be two dominant comps with no hero pools, and it's going to be Dive and Brawl with Rein, Zarya. So first let's talk about Dive, then Brawl, and then the winners and losers. So Dive is very powerful because of all the nerfs to CC that have come out recently and the fact that Echo is completely busted. Dive is very powerful if coordinated correctly. A lot of the best counters against Dive are not very good against Echo, and I think that an Echo Dive is going to be really powerful at shutting down a lot of the counters. Plus, because of a lot of the CC nerfs to some of the best Dive counters, Dive is very good. But we've reiterated time and time again how Dive is something that is very difficult to play without synergy, and you don't really build up that synergy very easily. So unless you're stacking, duoing, trioing, or something like that with people that will dive with you actively, Dive is going to be pretty hard to run in general. So keep that in mind. More often than not, Brawl is going to be far easier to play. Now, as far as Echo, I'm sure that a lot of you have been having problems with Echo, but keep in mind, we've never had Echo with all the hit scans unbanned. Every time Echo's been out, McCree has been banned, and usually Widow as well. So, with McCree, Widow, Soldier, Ashe, you have a lot of different options for shutting down Echo. I think Echo's still going to be nuts, because Echo can play in a way that hit scans have a hard time dealing with her, but she has more fair play against her than she ever has. So, really keep that in mind. Don't be too afraid of Echo. We're going to see how she plays in an environment where there's no bans at all. Now, as far as the winners are concerned, we got Rein, Zarya for Brawl, Monkey, Hammond for Dive, and then of course we talk about the still good category, which Diva goes right along with the Dive composition, and then Sigma surprisingly is still good because Sigma is actually playable in a lot of different situations. I think that he's underrated in a lot of situations. He's pretty good for leveraging your own individual skill on main tank if your team doesn't really play around you or doesn't want to play with you. He has a lot of solo carry impact. You could off angle with him, you can duel enemies, you could still provide tons of shield break and enough space for your team to make it worth it as long as you're getting a lot done. I think he's like a carry tank that can fill a lot of roles. Not someone like Hog that just wants to do his own thing, but a carry tank that can also kind of fulfill his role as a tank, but make plays as well. So definitely don't be afraid to put him in your repertoire if you're someone like a main tank player, or even if you're an off tank player that needs to fill to main tank sometimes. Sigma can be that guy. And then going back to Diva, Diva's only in the still good category because she's very good, yes, but keep in mind, I'm knocking her down a little bit because of how difficult she is to play. Generally, you don't get the maximum value out of her unless you master her peeling style, which people don't really do at the lower ranks, unfortunately. But if you can differentiate yourself from the pack and start peeling for your team, never get demeched as Diva, value your mech as if it's your life, you can definitely bounce up those ranks and climb up to the higher ranks, and then you can play in the hero pools, which is, you know, your consolation prize, I guess. Maybe that's not really a good consolation prize, but regardless of that, let's talk about a decent character, surprisingly, Hog. Now, Hog is decent because of his matchup against a lot of the divers and against Echo. His only big problem in a world with no hero pools is he has a lot of counters that can shut down his value. I mean, Zarya can bubble his hooks, Diva can potentially stop his hooks altogether, he can get slept by Ana, he can get stunned, CC'd. I think that Hog is decent. He's a decent character. He's something you can definitely play. If you're an off-tank player and you're better than everyone in the lobby, but more often than not, you could probably find better value with someone else on the list. And then the loser, of course, is IRISA. You probably should not play IRISA unless you're playing a map that is really tailored to her, or you have a team of players that really want to play double shield for some reason. I think double shield is still okay, especially if you're actually playing it, but everyone needs to be doing their job correctly. You need good teamwork, you need good synergy. A lot of that stuff is not going to happen very often. I think IRISA's bad, but you could definitely whip her out on some maps like Ilios well, get some free pull value, play her with a Hog or play with a Sigma. There is places for her, but more often than not, you could probably find value elsewhere. Now moving on to the DPS, let's talk about a quick DPS tier list for 3,500 or less. Keep in mind some of these characters are going to be a little bit different. If I was talking about every single rank, some characters would be higher or lower, but I regress. Let's jump right into it. So for the S tier, we have Echo, McCree, Reaper, Mei, Hanzo, and just eking out the list, Tracer. Echo, of course, we all know how busted she is. She's probably going to be dominant. I don't think she's going to be as dominant because, like I said before, we're going to have McCree, Widow, Soldier, Ashe, all in the hero pool. So she's going to have more counters, which is going to be great. McCree is going to be great because he's so good he keeps getting banned over and over again because he's good at everything. Contesting divers, contesting flankers, dealing frontline pressure. McCree just has everything, and the fact that he can, one, deal with a Doomfist, a Reaper, a Mei, and also deal with an Echo is just so great. And I think that if you play McCree or you're a hitscan player, you're going to want to be playing McCree. Reaper's good with the dive or against the dive. Of course, I think he's my #1 pick if you're in the lower ranks, and I'm talking about bronze, silver, gold. Reaper is very good at teaching you how to use your abilities well. He brings a lot of survivability to the table, even with poor healers, and he can make plays with very little space, so I definitely suggest playing Reaper. Mei's good in the Ryan v Ryan mirror. You can get a lot of free value, especially on maps like Hanamura First Defense. You can get a lot of free wall value and just get free kills based on Mei. Hanzo's a character I said in the past that if you're good with him, play him every time he's not banned. Well, guess what? He's not going to be banned anymore, and if you're good with Hanzo, play him. He can contest almost every character that I'm going to talk about if you're good enough with him. He's good against dive if you position well, and he can 1v1 almost every character on the roster if you hit your shots. The only problem with Hanzo is you really can't play him with the dive at all, but in any composition that's not a dive, Hanzo's great. And then last is Tracer. Now, unfortunately for Tracer, she scales according to your SR immensely, especially when you get past the 4K range. Tracers are just a completely another level. So while she's good, I don't think that she's the best in S tier. She's probably one of the worst, only because it's 3,500 or less as opposed to 3,500 plus. Now moving on to the A tier, these are characters that are still good. They're not characters that I expect to see in every single game, but I wouldn't be surprised if people just play them. And it's Doomfist, who can get a lot of kills. Bugs aside, he's insanely good at carrying games. He's insanely good at dominating a lot of dive and counter dive. He's good at bullying a lot of characters. There's some characters that just can't contest the Doomfist at all, and supports are always abused by Doomfist. So if you're good at Doomfist, you learn his cycles of rotation, you're gonna have a lot of value on him no matter what. And then Soldier, of course, with 6-second helix, you could fish for kills. You could play him in dive, you could play him in brawl. There's a lot of different ways to play him. I 100% suggest that you play the guerrilla warfare version of Soldier, where you're on the high ground, you're taking alternate angles, you're poking actual people, you're not trying to break shields, and you should be just fine on Soldier. Now Widow is only an A tier as opposed to S tier because it takes a lot of skill to be good at Widow, and frankly, Widows don't really start getting good until 3,500 or higher. So if you're good at Widowmaker and you're confident in your ability, you probably could just play Widowmaker and start dominating Echoes, rank up all the way up to Masters and above. But keep in mind that she is a very difficult character to play and extract the maximum value out of her, and it's going to take a lot of grinding in order to get good with her. And then Torb is surprisingly good, especially if you're playing like a double shield comp or a brawl comp with Rhine. Torb can break shields, he's good against divers. Torb is actually surprisingly like a sleeper pick. A lot of players have been playing him even at the higher ranks. I think Torb is pretty good. And on top of that, the fact that his turret can contest an Echo is pretty good icing on the cake. Now moving on to the B tier, these are characters that are good, solid, but you have to have some sort of expertise or personal preference that heavily leans you towards these characters, or some sort of situation that begs you to play these characters. So for the B tier, we have Genji, Ashe, Pharah, Sombra, and Symetra. Now Genji is good, and I said he's pretty good in the past, but there's a couple of things that you need in order to make him worth it in my opinion. You need to be looking at their healers, DPS, and tanks and seeing what characters punish you, what characters counter you, and then it will really help you decide whether or not you want to play Genji. Like, I would play Genji all day against a Ryan Diva double hit scan on a Lucio comp, but I would never, ever be caught dead playing a Genji against a Mei, Symetra, Mora, Brig. Not in a million years, and you shouldn't either. If you could just pay attention to what the enemies have and what you have, that will help you decide whether or not you should whip out Genji. Now, Ashe is good at being pocketed, but in the head-to-head against Widow and Hanzo, she just gets completely destroyed unless she has that pocket. So, pocket, yes. No pocket, probably not. Pharah, the same way. You need that pocket in order to make her viable. Unlike Echo, who doesn't need a pocket in order to be viable. She needs some sort of heal, but it could come from different places. It doesn't have to be from a Mercy. Pharah really needs a Mercy if you want to make her viable, especially with Echoes running around. The problem with Pharah is Echo can actually chase her down. If she doesn't have a pocket to keep her above that 50% health, you could take a little damage, hide behind natural cover, and the Echo will just chase you down with her beam and kill you. Now, Sombra is a character that you could whip out in a lot of different situations. Shut down a Hammond, shut down a Doomfist, maybe even punish a Diva. There's a lot of ways that you could get value out of Sombra, and I think that Sombra is actually a little bit underrated. The problem with Sombra is she takes a great deal of skill to get value out of, and a great deal of synergy, and even if you have the skill, the synergy you're not going to have underneath 3500, so I think Sombra is actually hindered by this fact. And on top of that, it could be a really big liability to play a character like Sombra into an Echo, because that is the worst ultimate that you could allow her to copy. I'm just saying, that's just terrible. Now, Symetra is a character that I could see playing as long as you have the proper team composition for it. You have a Rhine that can set up your TPs, or you're up against double barrier. There are different scenarios where Symetra's good, and there's different maps that she's favorable on, such as Hanamura, but it also comes down to your personal preference and your comfortability on the character. I wouldn't suggest you just one trick her or play in every situation. She really needs the proper tools, the team tools, in order to make her viable. Now, let's move on to the C tier, and we only have one character in the C tier, and it's Junkrat. Junkrat's a character that I don't think is that bad, but I think he's really map dependent, and he's better against some team compositions. While I wouldn't want to play him against an Echo, Pharah, or any sniper, he's actually pretty good against brawl comps that want to bring the fight close. He's decent against Doomfist, he's decent against Reaper, he has some game against those characters, and on some maps like Temple of Anubis First Defense, he can get a lot of free value, especially if the enemy is not playing a dive. So Junkrat doesn't quite make it into the D tier, but I think he's actually alright. He's pretty decent, especially if you're playing him on the proper maps. And then we're moving on to the last character, which is a character I keep putting in the lowest tier, and he's still in the lowest tier. He's even more in the lowest tier now that everything's unbanned, everything's free to play. Bastion is in the D tier, and I know that many of you are gonna sell me that Bastion keeps dominating your games, and like I said, I already created the video to make you dominate a Bastion every single time, so go check it out, go watch it, and you won't lose to Bastions anymore, and then you'll understand why Bastion is in the D tier. Now let's flow on down to the supports, the last but certainly not least section, and let's talk about great characters. Great characters, when everything's unbanned, what's the great characters? Ana, Brig, and Lucio. It's the same three characters that are always great when they're unbanned because they're great, okay? Ana's good against the dive, with the dive. She really rewards you heavily for your skill that you bring to the character. She is a character that can carry. She's a character that can enable. There's so much that Ana could do. She does get pressured a lot from dives, so if you don't have the skill required, you don't hit your shots, you don't make those proactive plays, then more is going to be better, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. Lucio is great. He's good with dive. He's good with brawl. Just play Lucio. If you don't have a Lucio on your team, what are you doing? Play Lucio. Lucio is great. He is one of the best characters in the entire game for a reason. Play Lucio. You should just be playing Lucio. What more can I say? Now, Brig is cool because she's good in Brawl as an anti-dive character, and she's good in dive because she can actually enable with armor packs pretty well. I mean, armor packing your Genji, armor packing your Tracer or your Echo, that's pretty good value, and Brig actually can come in with the team and almost dive with the team, bring a lot of value to the team. The biggest problem that comes with Brig, in my opinion, is in the head-to-head. If you're in the Rein Zarya head-to-head mirror, right? You're on Rein Zarya, they're on Rein Zarya. If they have speed and you don't, that could be a big disadvantage if they engage correctly, because they can overwhelm you and swarm you before you get enough value out of your Inspire and your Sustain and your Rally. Plus, you don't have a defensive ult, so you're weaker against ultimate combos like Grav Dragon or Nano Blade. So really keep that in mind. I think Brig is best suited if you're playing a Brawl composition up against a dive composition, but if you're a good Brig, you keep that Inspire time up and the enemy doesn't really play that tight, then you can get a lot of value out of Brig. I tend to think that Brig gets more value at the lower ranks generally than she does at the upper ranks, so she's probably just going to be great here. Now, let's talk about good. Of course, we're going to talk about that. Mora is good if the enemy is playing like a hard dive composition and you cannot stay alive at Ana. play Mora. I mean, sometimes enemies are going to be running like Echo, Doomfist, Hammond, and they're just all going to just want to jump on you, and there's nothing you can do. You hit one sleep, you die anyway. No one peels for you. Play Mora. It's better to be alive as a Mora than be dead as a carry Ana. You know what I'm saying? And then last, we're going to put these in the situational category. Mercy, Bap, and Zen. Mercy is good in the situations where you're going to be pocketing a DPS. You don't want to be using her as a primary healer. You want to be using her to enable damage boost and pocket a DPS that can bring forth even more value. Something like potentially an Echo, an Ashe, even a Hanzo, a Pharah. That's what Mercy is great at, and that's what you want to be doing. Maybe if you have a carry DPS on your team or a character that really benefits from being pocketed, Mercy is your girl. Now, Bap and Zen are interesting. I think that Bap can bring a lot of value if you're extremely good with his weapon and his immort, but in general, I don't think Bap is as good as Mora and Ana. That being said, sometimes in the proper scenario where you just can't keep your team alive no matter what, an immortality field can stabilize and help you stabilize in the right scenario. I think that if you're getting rolled, sometimes a swap to Bap can help stabilize things pretty fast. Now, Zen, I would probably only play Zen if you're playing double shield, generally with a Baptiste, even though I don't think double shield is going to be played that much. That's where Zen really shines at shield break because he really contributes. Now, I will say that there is another niche scenario. I've been seeing Zen more and more playing with an Echo because in the Echo mirror, right, when the enemy has an Echo and you have an Echo, if you discord their Echo and harmony your Echo's going to win the 1v1 almost every time if their skill is even remotely close. So that can be a way where you actually get some value, but keep in mind, no one's going to be peeling for you, so unless you have insane positioning, you're just going to get slaughtered as Zen. So it's really a sink or swim situation that I don't think you have to put yourself in, but if that's what you want to do, if you love Zen, then you could probably get some value out of him in this way. Now, all that being said, if you want to master any of the characters on this list, we just brought on board more insane talent in Overwatch to help make high quality content for you at the GameLeap website. Go check it out. You might be surprised at what you find. Now, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you just want to roast me, do it down below, please. And if there's any video ideas you want to see, please, please, please let me know. I would love to jump right on it. That's all we got for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.